Thank you so much. Thanks for being here, really do appreciate it. I'm Drex DeFord, I'm the Executive Healthcare Strategist at Crowdstrike, and I have a long and sordid history as a CIO at lots of different health systems. I spent 20 years in the US Air Force as a CIO at small hospitals and large hospitals, wound up as Chief Technology Officer for Air Force Health's worldwide operations in Washington, DC, and then was the CIO at Scripps Health in San Diego, Seattle Children's, Steward Healthcare, was an independent consultant for a while, and just joined Crowdstrike about a year ago as the Executive Healthcare Strategist. The thing that really brought me to Crowdstrike was that it's interesting to kind of see now how the threats have evolved, how the innovation of the adversaries has really evolved. And as I did work as an independent consultant with lots of different health systems, I saw how brittle and antiquated a lot of the work was that was going on around cybersecurity. And I knew that there had to be a better way, and so I had a decision to make. Where was I going to put the next few years of my career? And I thought cybersecurity would be best because we're making huge investments in digital health transformation. And I think cybersecurity may be one of the things that kind of holds that up. So this will be a pretty short presentation. I'm only up here for about 10 minutes. We're going to run through a lot of stuff. I love to talk about this stuff, digital health and cybersecurity. If you want to talk afterwards, I'm happy to step off to the side and chat with you. So, grab me or connect with me on LinkedIn or Twitter. All that information's kind of on one of the slides a little bit later. Let's talk about the adversaries. They are really relentless, right? They're not the hackers of 10 years ago. And a little history lesson for people who are kind of just new to healthcare IT. When you think about sort of in 2009, we had about 10% of health systems that had electronic health records. And then the government sort of pumped in $40 million for electronic health record adoption. By the time we got to 2016, we had 95% of healthcare organizations having electronic health records. So we became addicted to the technology, not just for clinical delivery, but also for business systems, for research systems. We got to the point that when we went offline, when we had a problem, we were really offline and really sort of shut down the business. There was also this unintended consequence that came from that. So we wound up making ourselves very vulnerable. When systems went down, we really went offline. And the other one was we put a lot of information in one place, and if you could get to it, it was really, really valuable information. So let's talk about these e-crime cartels that are kind of involved in this business of getting to our data. They're very sophisticated. They're not the bad guys of 10 years ago. They run like companies. They have CEOs, they have CFOs, they have help desks. They call you clients. They don't refer to you as victims or as targets. They really do innovative things like build chatbots to make sure that it's really easy for you to pay when the time comes for you to pay. They are the world's best negotiators. They're really awesome at insurance and understanding how insurance works. So it may turn out to be that they know your insurance and the way your insurance works better than you do in some cases. And they do things called big game hunting. And big game hunting involves not only the the adversary company themselves, but also they'll pick up sort of independent consultants on the dark web who specialize in certain things. So like a pack of wolves, they pick a target, big health system with a lot of data and a lot of money, and they send a wolf in to make the initial penetration into the network, find out where the crown jewels are. Another one exfiltrates data, and 200 days later, once they have everything they need, they set off ransomware. And that may be the first time that a lot of health systems know that there's something, bad going on. So I'll tell you a story here. And we're a cybersecurity company, so we don't really talk about the names of our customers, but we'll just say this is a big health system in the middle of the country. We see this ransomware thing, happen all the time. We started as an incident response company, actually. So kind of on your worst day, when you talk to your insurance company, that's the day that they will sort of tell you to call Crowdstrike, and we show up. And in this particular case, the health system wasn't a customer, and they didn't have an incident response retainer. But on a Friday night, of course it was on a Friday night, one of my buddies calls me from that health system and says, I think we have something really weird going on, and I don't know what it is, but do you think there's some way, that you could help? So I called our incident response service guys. They dialed into the bridge line, started working some stuff with them, worked a contract in the background. And it turned out that, they had some systems compromised, and we were able to sort of help them clean it up and get it back in service. But we do this by deploying something we call the Falcon sensor. And it's a tiny piece of software that sits sort of on the kernel, on beachfront property at an endpoint. And it's really easy to push out. You use SCCM or whatever it is that you use to push out software packages or updates. Literally, we deployed 80,000 endpoints over the course of just a couple of days. No blue screens, no reboots. As soon as it's on the endpoint, it just starts working. And the way it works is that it feeds data, it feeds all the activity that's happening on that machine to the cloud. To something we call Threat Graph. And it turns out that Crowdstrike is actually one of the world's most advanced big data analytics companies, with AI and ML running on top of Threat Graph. With all these feeds from millions of endpoints at 16,000 customers around the world, we can see a lot of things that are going on. And then when we do incident response, that trains the machine learning engine. When we see things in an individual organization's environment, that feeds the ML engine. We have threat hunters around the world who spend their days and nights on the dark web, kind of learning and understanding how bad guys behave. That goes into the engine. And so we can see things when they're happening, catch them really quickly. And in this case, we deployed the sensor for this IR engagement and found compromised systems, and were able to sort of clean them up, fix them up, get them back in service pretty quickly. One thing I will tell you, this was kind of a fluke, right? This customer, this not yet a customer, didn't have an IR retainer with us. And so one of the things I would say, if you're going to take one thing away, take away that you should have an incident response retainer with a company like Crowdstrike. Doesn't need to be us, but we're pretty good at it. Have an incident response retainer, because what happens is when bad things happen, they usually happen in lots of different places. The incident response retainer gives you a ticket to the front of the line so that you know that you have people who can come and help you right away, that have experience, they've seen it all those kinds of things. Anyway, we got to the end of the incident response engagement, and the CIO essentially said this: don't take the sensors off. Just leave them on. Like, we can't do this kind of work. And we like what you're doing. Is there some way that you can, just keep working with us, keep monitoring? Because we're starting to sleep at night now, finally, after a few days. And so you absolutely can do that. And you don't have to call me on Friday night in the middle of an incident to actually get this service. It's called Falcon Complete. It's really our SOC, our super experienced SOC guys, managing your endpoint environment, doing overwatch really on that environment. And we use a model called 11060. So because of the intel and all the other information that we have in Threat Graph, watching all those millions of sensors across 16,000 customers, we can detect something odd starting to happen in a minute. And then the human threat hunter steps into that and looks at that data and tracks back and forth and begins to understand what's really happening. Within 10 minutes, we complete an investigation. Yeah, there's really something bad happening in your environment. And because we have all the data that sort of flowed from that endpoint over the course of several days, we can cut out all the bad stuff, put that machine back in service within 60 minutes, and it's like nothing ever happened. And so 11060. The reason that model is so important is that what we've sort of learned over time is that bad guys can move from the first machine to the next machine. That's called lateral movement or breakout time. The breakout time is about 1 hour and 38 minutes. So the best ones are around 1 hour and 38. When they break out of that first machine and go to the second one, that is an incident that is headed toward a breach pretty quickly. So we think of this as, in modern cybersecurity, if you can have speed, if you can catch the bad guys fast, kill them off, and put the machine back in service, and then we'll send you a report like an hour later that says, here's all the things that happened, and here's what you really should do to that machine to clean it up and make sure it's hardened so it doesn't happen again. If you can stay ahead of the bad guys, then you're really in the process of that cybersecurity transformation idea that I'm talking about. That's sort of the challenge, right? Transforming from this sort of brittle, antiquated model of cybersecurity that a lot of healthcare organizations, here we go. Transferring to a lot of stuff that these organizations kind of feel like are sort of brittle and hard to manage, to something that is really sort of built around speed. Speed is really kind of the currency of modern cybersecurity. So all that stuff happens, all that cloud stuff that I sort of talked about, it all happens in AWS. So we're really great partners with AWS, but we do more than just stuff on-prem. We protect those endpoints, but we protect endpoints in the cloud too. And not just AWS multi-cloud, so we protect workloads no matter where you have them, and it really literally is the same sensor all the way across. So it's really easy to deploy, easy to manage, easy to run, easy to use. CrowdStrike and AWS, like that, it's just a great relationship. We really trust each other. Obviously, we're dedicated to the critical infrastructure of healthcare. The other thing I would say, just kind of in conclusion, is that you've made massive investments in digital health and in your EHRs. You really should protect those investments from going down, going offline. A lot of the reason those kinds of things happen is because of a cybersecurity incident. You're also protecting patients and families, and we appreciate that. And sort of selfishly, I would say you're protecting me and my family, so thanks for that. And that's really why I work at CrowdStrike, and it's why we're great partners with AWS. Thank you very much for your time, really appreciate it. My contact info is here if you want to reach out. Thanks.